Hello, this is Wes Bridle, and this is another Kingdom Calling Economic Update video. Hopefully, I'm going to be a little shorter on this one. I felt like that one ran long. But I do want to start this video out. This video is going to be on the European crisis. It's the second part in a series on Europe. And a lot of financial and economic facts are just really ugly news. I was talking to a friend of mine who was asking me about this, and he's a brother in the Lord. He has some understanding of what the Lord is doing in this time, and really what the Lord's been doing in our lives has been amazing. It's been wonderful, and so we're pretty excited about this. I've shared this for a long time. If you haven't seen the Coming Storm video, there's a link to watch it for free. I put it out 2 years ago and explained exactly what was going to be happening. I don't think I talked about Europe very much in that video, but the big changes that were going to be happening. So I've been very settled with this for a long time. I understand things are going to get very ugly in an economic sense. Our lives are going to change pretty dramatically. There's not any escaping that. We can set some things up so we do a lot better financially, and fortunately we've had some things doing extremely well over this period. But doesn't matter. Even if you're doing really well economically, things are going to change in such dramatic fashion that your life is going to change. It's just how it's going to be. So I've been settled with this for a long time, and it makes it all very interesting for me. I was just telling my friend, I bet most people that watch this are really scared, because for one, they don't know which way it's going to go, and secondly, they're seeing how it's going to affect them, and I'm guessing that is probably your situation, or each one of you is different. But if you're watching it in fear of, is this all going to blow up? Is this going to be devastating? How's this going to affect me and my current ideal of how my financial life is going to be? That's a very scary situation to be in. Sorry for you if you're feeling that kind of fear. I will say the Lord is bringing this for an important reason, and it's actually quite exciting, but he's getting a hold of and attention of everybody. For me, it's just interesting to watch the things unfold. It's like I think my friend said, it's like watching a play. I mean, I kind of know, I know generally what the end result's going to be in a financial sense. I don't know exactly, and so I'm watching the specifics play out. Anyways, I just thought I would share that. It's just it's fascinating to me to watch this all right now. Doesn't mean it's not going to be very hard for me. It will be. But at the same time, I know that it is all for a good purpose, and for that I'm very excited. So I hope that's an encouragement to you. Continue to seek the Lord throughout all of this, and then the differences and changes in your circumstances won't be such a big deal as you continue to grow closer to Him. So let me jump into Europe. Again, just going through some of the details that happened over the last couple months in the European situation. It's interesting looking back over these 3 months over the different things that have happened. Basically, Europeans all get together, all the politicians, and they come up with a dramatic solution to our problems. And they've got a new thing that saves Europe. And then a few days goes by, and then the market realizes, wait a minute, that's not going to work. And then the whole thing kind of blows up. And then they repeat, and then they repeat. That's basically the whole story of what's been going on in Europe. Every time it repeats, the market gets a little savvier and smarter in realizing, wait a minute, they're not going to be able to solve anything. What the market wants them to do is just print money like crazy and pay off all these loans, just out of thin air. Germany's absolutely refusing to do that. That's the one thing they would, I think, rather leave the euro, which would be the same kind of implosion, than just print money on demand to pay all these debts off. So that's the big question. Will the euro break up because countries simply refuse to deal with each other, or will they end up just printing to save this, and Germany just kind of sucks it up? And it's not just Germany, it's multiple countries that really don't want to do that. It's not an easy thing, because if Germany leaves the euro, that's going to be devastating. If they stay, that's devastating. So they're in a no-win situation. But every time you see, okay, we've saved the euro, wait a week and see what happens. And some of these plans were outright lies. They came out a couple weeks ago and said, okay, we've got a plan. The investors, which means the banks, have agreed to take a 50% haircut. Well, then it comes out a few days later, we don't agree with that. So they're just blind, I guess, to get the news media kind of off their back, to get the yields on the sovereign debt bonds down a little bit and create a little space. But what does it buy them? A few days? It seems silly, but that's where they are. It should show you how desperate they are. This stuff is coming to a head very, very soon. Other plans weren't accepted by the market. The market wasn't interested in leverage. They wanted to leverage these EFSF plans. They couldn't. The market said, no, we don't want to buy those. We're not gonna buy those at a low yield. So they're stuck. Van Rompuy, they have so many leaders of Europe. I think of him as kind of the leader but I don't know what he is exactly, president of the EU or something. He says when Italy was having problems, he says Italy needs reform, not elections. So what these people in Brussels, the leadership of Europe, have done is they've gone in, they've taken out the elected leadership of both Italy and Greece, and they've put in their own people who weren't elected to run these countries and put forward what they want. So we've now got dictatorships in 2 of the European countries that was just put from on high from Brussels. That's a pretty scary thing. Now, there's no doubt those countries have a problem passing economic plans that work, but they should just be kicked out of the euro. They shouldn't put a dictator in instead. Europe's banking system, I already covered this, 4 times the size of the U.S., filled with bad debt. They have a ton of U.S. real estate exposure. I think U.S. banks have reduced their real estate exposure here more dramatically than the European banks have. Now, I'm sure the U.S. banks still have more real estate exposure in the U.S. since they're here, but the European banks haven't reduced very much of their exposure. And also, they have tremendous exposure to all these sovereign debt, the government bonds of these peripheral countries, because it was a system that was set up. The European leadership, the Basel in Switzerland, central bankers all told them, hey, if you buy government bonds, then that's considered the best bond you can have, and it's a tier 1 bond, it's helpful with the way you run your bank. And so they all did this, they were encouraged to do this, and now they hold these things. They're not AAA. And let's see, politicians lying at Euro Summit. They told investors Greek debt would be guaranteed in March. In July, they forced a 20% haircut. So they're lying to the investors. They're telling them in March, hey, you're going to be fine on your debt. It's going to get paid out. Then they come back in July and say, you're going to have to take a 20% loss on those bonds that you own. But that's it. Then you'll be safe and you won't lose anything else. Then in October, they come back and they say, now we expect you to take a 50% haircut on that. So they're out there just making stuff up as the day goes on, hoping that everyone will kind of forget that there's a crisis situation here. European banks sold $413 billion in bonds this year, but that's short of the $654 billion in demand, which of bonds that matured over the course of the year. So they were short $241 billion, and so things are getting tighter on their books. Next year, remember, they raised $413 billion this year. Next year, they need to raise even more than they needed this year, $720 billion. This is not an ending situation. Britain tells its citizens to prepare for dangerous riots in Europe, which will leave them stranded there. So Britain's preparing for Europe to blow up, for all systems to shut down, for all public transportation and everything to totally shut down, and for British citizens to be stranded all over Europe, and it's for Britain to kind of try to help them. The governments that really understand what's going on are preparing for very serious situations. I don't remember if I put it in here, but they're preparing for rioting, they're preparing for martial law, they're preparing for some very serious stuff. And these are the people that are behind the scenes and really know what's going on. I'm just guessing it because I'm reading the news and not just believing what they're telling us, but looking at it. But if you even see the way they're preparing, it's kind of scary stuff. Spain and Italy recently saw bond yield inversion that precipitated the Greek and Portugal getting ECB bailout. So the big countries are now hit that kind of over the hill point where Greece and Portugal needed it. Now they've announced crazy, salvation systems, so it's kind of back to back down. But we're at that point where these 2 massive countries, 3rd and 4th biggest in the euro area, need bailouts, and they're just too big to bail out. Okay, Italy. Okay, I mentioned Mario Monti. He's the new, I don't know, president of Italy. His entire cabinet, not one of them was elected. Money supply is rapidly shrinking in Europe, so their money's fleeing, it's drying up. Banks aren't lending. People that have money in banks are trying to move it to somewhere safe. It's kind of a scary situation. The Swiss government and the European giant international companies are preparing for the collapse of the euro. And let's see. Britain was blasted by Europe for not agreeing with the deal last week, but in the days after it came out, the Bundesbank said they don't agree with it either, and the attorneys that looked at it said, well, this is illegal. And so the bureaucrats don't care. They want to just put in the plans that they think are best, and the people should have no say in the matter. That's what the people running these countries believe. It's very interesting. I mean, I keep saying scary because in a fleshly, worldly way, that's what it is. To me, it's just interesting to see how we're kind of marching forward. Things are going to change radically. I mean, we're heading in that direction. I hope you've enjoyed this. Again, if you haven't seen the Coming Storm video, there's a link to do so for free. It's, I think, pretty important for you to watch to prepare yourself and your family. Thank you. God bless you.